Right. Oh, okay. I'm Marybeth Mullen. I know that the screen says my husband's name. He's just letting me borrow his office this morning, so I thank him for that. But welcome to Art Clinic Online, and Mariana and Jordan, who've been coordinating this for quite a few months. And I'm delighted to introduce Ted Frankel today. He is a lifelong collector, and he's the genius behind the American Visionary Art Museum's museum shop, the award-winning shop called SIDESHOW. And Ted, he has opened the shop in 2004. He has a art background, he has a business background, and he has a background that includes embracing and loving art, anything touched by human hands. And it's one of the reasons that the shop is so unique. It, more than any museum shop, really mimics exactly what the American Visionary Art Museum is all about. It is about intuitive art, art from the heart. And if you haven't been there, I encourage you to get there. Parking is very, very easy. And the wonderful thing is, after you see the collection, you're able to go into the shop and take a little bit of that whimsy home with you. So Ted's already at work this morning. He's at SIDESHOW, and he's going to take us on a little bit of a tour, and then also share a few items in the collection that are his. So Ted, take it away.
Here we go. Well, welcome to SIDESHOW. You know, it's my home and hopefully a home for everyone. I've always considered any of my stores sort of like the safe space on the Monopoly board, where you can come in, leave your worries behind you, and enjoy the space and know that you're safe and comfortable. And I've landed in Baltimore. I don't know how it happened. I think it's fate, but it's been a long road, a creative road, and one that I've really enjoyed. So first, let me thank Mariana. Thank you, Marybeth and Jordan, for asking me to come see you guys. It's my first time on a Zoom, so I'm a little nervous, but we'll make it through. So here I am in Baltimore, and I got here, I think, because of my friend Nancy Josephson, who is an artist who I met in Chicago in my previous life, and she's now in Delaware. And we became friends through my store, Uncle Fun and Goodies in Chicago. We became fast friends and art friends. She's a wonderful artist, and she's also exhibited in the museum. And we have some of her work here, so you'll get the idea. She does a lot of beaded work and beaded sculptures. And we travel together. We used to go to Haiti at least 3 or 4 times a year and visit the artists down there. And I think that was one of the first ways that I combined my careers of being an art director, graphic designer, a collector, and an appreciator of artists. Because there's nothing better than visiting an artist in their own space, you know, where you can go and you can watch them work with their hands or enjoy the sounds that they're making. Nancy and I used to go to a little village. It was called Croix de Bouquet. I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but it's the iron village in Haiti. And you'd walk into this little village and you'd walk the streets and you'd hear the sounds, you know, tap, 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 because all the ironwork done from recycled oil drums was all done by hand. And maybe later I can show you at least one of the pieces. And I think it's that combination of enjoying people, being an artist myself, and collecting that eventually got me to Baltimore. But originally, I was schooled in St. Louis at Washington University as a graphic designer. But all along the way, I collected junk, fun junk. And I worked as a graphic designer for about 20 years. And in between, there was a store going out of business in Chicago that had vintage calendars, really beautiful design pieces. And I went and I made this stack of stuff. And I said, this is what I want. And the guy said, no, I got to sell it all or nothing. And I bought his shop. And, and then what do I do? You know, I had all this stuff. So of course I had to open a store. So now I've been in business for maybe 45 years. And it's a place that I've created for myself. So I'm very comfortable in my own shops. But if I'm out, I'm sort of the shy guy. But what I have learned is being shy makes me a good listener, and being a good listener makes me a good person. So if I am a good person and I listen to myself, I'm able to spread that around. But another fun story from Chicago, which I can show you, which sort of involves how my art has grown, is I met a man, his name was Morton Newman. He was this eccentric guy that had a warehouse that he started in the 30s. And he started making cosmetics and fun perfumes for the trade. And he was a scientist, so he had all the chemicals and he made his own formulas. And pretty soon his company was being advertised in all the magazines, you know, like Follow Me Boy perfume and Hold Your Man perfume. And I saw one of his tins, which was incredibly beautiful, turned it over, found that he was in Chicago. So I went to visit him and a friendship grew there. And when I went to visit him, his warehouse was 2 stories. First floor was his warehouse and the second floor, the offices. And there were maybe 50 desks, you know, for the secretaries and people working there. But at that time, it was just he and his wife. And it was a mess. The place was a mess. There were stacks of stuff, which I loved. And it was exciting for me. And we started talking, and I would buy products from him and I would trade my services for his products. And it wasn't until later that I realized the stacks of stuff that were a mess were original Picassos, Moreaus. He was the biggest art collector in the United States at the time, but this wonderful eccentric man and his wife. And let me show you some of the labels from that. I don't know if you can see these or not, but these are all labels from the 30s. And he was the first person to hire an African-American graphic designer and became famous for all his labels. And when the company closed, you know, because I was buying stock from him, I bought all the labels. And this is something I've done recently.
Wow.
With all the labels. I don't know if you can see closely or not.
Yeah.
Wow.
And not only the front, but the back.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, doing something like this is almost like walking a labyrinth or doing a mandala, because I don't really think, I just surround myself with stuff, which is something I love. Mm-hmm. And I just start picking things up and the order comes naturally. And I think that's kind of a fun thing. And it's a combination again of using old stuff and putting it in a new way and ending up with a product.
Yeah. Ted, that's a lot of, I just have a comment, because what you've done there is so much what the American Visionary Art Museum is also trying to share with people, is you can actually take something that perhaps somebody else has discarded or doesn't care about, and you can make something new out of it, give it a new life.
Right, which I think is a fantastic way of expressing yourself and reusing stuff that people, as you said, just tossed away. There was a quote, I think they've taken it out of the permanent collection across the hallway, by Albert Einstein, I believe. And he said that imagination is more important than knowledge. And I think I tend to agree, because knowledge is, for me at least, the base. And you have to have a little bit of that knowledge, but creativity is the elevator that takes you to the next stage. And that's why creativity is so important to me and my life. And that's why Ashley, who's behind the camera, and Carly over there, I always hire creative artists because they can always find a way to get out of a tough situation. They're creative and they're working on their own art at the same time, or writing. You know, going way back, when I wanted to go to art school, people told my parents they're crazy. You know, why you're sending your kid to art school? He'll never make a living. And then I look back and I think to myself, how short-sighted. I don't know if anybody can think of anything in this world that we do that hasn't been touched by an artist, whether it's the clothes you're wearing or the makeup you're putting on your face or the paintings hanging in your house. Everything's been touched by an artist or a designer or a writer or a singer. You know, I think creativity is what makes the world go round. And as you can see, the store's still open. So we've got kids going around. So there's excitement in the shop.
Ted, you're standing right in front of original artwork, which is unusual in a museum shop. I mean, this is original artwork by artists who are also being shown in the museum at this point.
Right. Well, let me walk you over to this artist. This artist's name is Matt Ciso, and he was just in a show with Basquiat in Virginia. And Matt and I go way back, and this is another wonderful part of my job as being an artist and a store owner, is I met Matt on the street in Baltimore 18 years ago, where he put his artwork on the street and people would walk by and I go, oh my God, this is great. You know, and I bought as many pieces as I could and sold them in the store. And that's why I think Matt sort of trusts me to be the only place where you can buy Matt Ciso paintings other than online. And I don't know if you know the story of Matt, but Matt, when he was about 9 years old, he was from Nebraska and he was playing with his buddies on an airfield, went to catch a ball and a propeller cut his arm off. Terrible, right? But in the other building, there's a huge painting where he's on the operating table and his funky angels are coming down and they're saying, you know, you want a really interesting life or are you ready to go? So he was given the choice, and of course he chose to stay. So he grew up to be a computer genius. And like many artists, you know, that the work and the feelings come from the gut. And he decided that he was going to give that up to woo his future wife. Now they're married because she was also an artist. And when they do pieces together, you'll see like two signatures. So she's more realistic and he's the wild, creative genius. So I do love to find artists and I love to travel. I've created the perfect job for me because I love to collect. I love junk. I love to travel. I like to meet people and I like to show their work. So I think everybody should be able to get in touch with that part of them, which would allow them to have a career or a life of joy. Yeah. You know, I think we've all gone through really tough times, especially me, you know, and I've learned from those tough times and moved on. And I think when you learn about those tough times and you really study them, it made me stronger and it made me more compassionate and understanding of other people. And again, that's why a store is perfect for me, because we're sort of either at the beginning of the museum or the end. People come in and they love to talk about what they've seen and how they react to it. So being the safe space that we are, it's a wonderful conversation to have. So
Ted, I have a quick question if you don't mind.
sure.
When you choose to show, or just when you choose to take on an artist like like you were showing behind you, how much of the artist's story plays a factor in that versus just how the work is aesthetic to you?
Well, the story for me is the way that I can relate to other people, because being a better listener than I am a talker, it allows me to have words to explain what I've bought. But originally, when I meet someone, I only buy things that I like. So anything that you see in the store has to go through my eyes first in order to get here. So I think it's a combination of the two. I don't do consignment. That's my first rule here. One, because the bookkeeping's too hard, and I've learned that I can't do it, so I have an accountant that takes care of it. So I don't want that to happen. And most artists allow me to get a pretty good discount because they get paid right away, and they don't have to worry about their bookkeeping or the money factor. And it just eliminates that totally. Oftentimes when I travel and I see something I like in Mexico, or I've met several artists I love, when they have their stuff on the street, there's something inside of me that goes, that's incredible. And you want to bring that back and share it with other people. So oftentimes I'll go, well, how much is that? And they'll give me a price, and I go, what happens if I buy them all? And then the joy starts. So I think I can't lose either way. Hopefully that answers your question.
Well, Ted, I have a follow-up to that. I know that I find your prices in the shop very accessible, not something that is found in a lot of anywhere to buy anything. And I'm wondering, it seems like it's intentional on your part to make it so accessible for the variety of people, the diverse numbers of groups that come to American Visionary Art Museum.
Oh, it's totally on purpose. I've been in business 45 years and I'm still here. So, and I've seen a lot of my friends go in and out of business. I want a place, especially now that I'm in a museum, that people can come and take something away with them and enjoy it. So you want people to afford the luxury of having something that's cool or fun. And it is a definite thing that I wanted to do, because recently I took my staff and we went to a museum in New York, and it was this wonderful show. And we wanted just to buy a postcard, and the postcard was like $7.50. So I think the advantage of being an old fart like me, I still have those old prices in my mind, and I want to continue it on, because I'm sure many of you remember going to a Woolworths or a Kresge and going through all the little bins and ending up with something special. And that's why, in the shop, we have all these drawers that people love to go through. Old rat things and triangles and spiders. A lot of people dice. Because we have a lot of artists who do come in here, they'll take things in the store that are really inexpensive, take them apart and make them into new things. Like we were talking before, recycling them into their own art or jewelry, or, I think it's a springboard for creativity here. Some people come in and go, oh my God, I got visual overload. And I go, I've done my job. As long as you can come shopping. This is our theme too, come shopping and leave smiling. And I think it works.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
oh yeah. And I'm dying to know, is there something that you bought that you just were beyond yourself. You just, it's like, you can believe you found it, because there's some oddball things in there, and they make me laugh, and I buy a lot of them. But I'm wondering, like, when you're going out, are you thinking, God, I hope I find the Holy Grail this time, or have you found it?
I have found a lot of holy grails in my life. Wherever we travel, I love to go meet artists. We go to Hawaii, and my favorite thing is going to the senior craft fair, because these ladies and gentlemen make things with their hands. They're really unusual. These are from, I don't know if you could see these or not, but look at these. Just something simple that the ladies made there, but they're beautiful. And the fact that they put them together with their hands or in a group of ladies, it brings that experience into my shop.
Yeah, they are beautiful.
But also through the years, I've met a lot of people and have lots of connections. And when I started my toy store, well, I've had several stores now. So in Chicago, I had Goodies, Uncle Fun, Paperboy, Flypaper, all stores that looked beautiful, had beautiful things that were very reasonable. And when I started, my favorite thing was going to old warehouses and finding stacks of old stuff, and I would go, how much is the corner over there? And I would buy a corner of a warehouse, and I'd come home, and it was like Christmas opening up. What did I find? Is there the Holy Grail? Is there something funky that's really good? These are really beautiful too, from an old warehouse that we found in New York. And they're original hand embroidered pieces from the late 60s. And when you buy a corner of a warehouse, they're $10. Where can you get nowadays a hand embroidered piece of work for $10? You really can't. So that's the fun part for me. The first part is finding it. The second part is talking about it. And the third part is someone taking it home into their collection, or for them to make something out of it.
Well, how about your own personal collecting journey? How different is it from what you're doing in the shop? Because I know you have, I know your walls at home are covered. There's no room.
Right, it's the way I hang things in the house. It's Victorian style. But it used to be one for the store and two for me. So you can imagine what my studio at home and the house looks like. But it's fun because it's always, as we said before, the stories behind things. And now that I'm married, let me show you what my husband does. These are some of Bill's work. And Bill, my husband, ran the arts for Baltimore. So he was in charge of Artscape, the fireworks, all the fun stuff that was free in Baltimore. And he retired. And when he retired, he decided he was going to become an artist too. And now I can't stop him, because it's that drive, just like the museum, the drive inside that wants to come out. And you let it out, and wonderful things happen. So, this museum has taught a lot of people that you don't have to have the education of being an artist, that you are an artist. And if you just open up and let it out, great things will happen. Because I went to art school, I have all that stuff in my head going, the shadow should be here, you should do it this way. And I've been trying to get rid of that, because sometimes it's not the best way of doing. You have to be able to get in touch with your gut and let it out. And thank God there is a museum like the American Visionary Museum that puts that kind of art out there and allows everybody to go home and just doodle or do something and not to worry about what other people think.
And I have a question.
Sure.
I have a question, if I may. Could you tell us a little bit about the history of the shop and affiliation with a museum? Which came first and how they interact?
Sure. Well, as I was saying before, I had stores for 38 years in Chicago. And my friend Nancy Josephson, who we talked about a little bit earlier, knew the museum, and Rebecca Hofberger, the head of the museum. And she said, you got to come to the museum. You got to come to the museum. It's everything you love. And I said, okay. So we made arrangements and I came to the museum. And actually, one of the shows that's at the museum now was also here before it traveled. And it was the stitcheries from the Holocaust. And Rebecca was giving a tour and we had lunch upstairs, and Nancy said, as we were coming down the stairs, oh, this is Rebecca. And she came over for a second and she said, hello, I'm Rebecca, the head of the museum. I go, oh, it's nice to meet you. That was it. And I went back to Chicago. And then maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, I get a call. Hi, it's Rebecca Hofberger from the museum. She said, you're the one. I said, the one what? And she goes, you're the one I want to open the store. I go, you don't even know me. And she goes, I'm very intuitive. And she was right. So I said, no, I have all these stores in Chicago. I'm not moving to Baltimore. I had only been there once. She goes, no, you got to come talk to me. So another several weeks later, I came back and we talked, and she took me to lunch, and I thought, what do I have to lose? I had thought maybe I was going to retire after all these years. And I said, okay, I'll try it. And I came, opened the store, and then 3 months later, she set me up on a blind date with my husband. So she knew how to keep me here. And that's how the store happened here. And then eventually I went back and forth. And eventually I decided I really do love Baltimore, and I closed all my stores in Chicago.
Wow. And initially you brought your collection to the store, or some of your collection?
I brought some because the stores were still going at the same time.
Right.
So I sort of started over and enlarged my scope of merchandise, because I had a really beautiful paper and stationery store that showed some similar art in Chicago. So I was familiar with untrained or visionary or outsider artists, and it was just a perfect fit for me. So here I am, and I'm very happy.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, you can. Everybody can ask questions. I'm an open book.
Your store is one of my favorite places, and I have so many wonderful things in my home that are from your store. The first of which was a Haitian prayer flag that I must have bought 10 or 15 years ago that gives me such joy to and my question, that was something I've puzzled over for a long time, because I like to travel and I like to buy crafts and folk art. And I wonder why there are countries like Haiti that has produced such a wealth of gorgeous artwork, you know, the tin cuts and the prayer flags and paintings, and then there are other countries much less so, like the Dominican Republic, you know, just across the border on the same island, doesn't have quite as much, that doesn't have that wealth of artistry. Do you have a sense about that?
I think the environment has a lot to do with it. The people in Haiti are so poor that they worked really hard to try to find something to make a living. And I know in Haiti, when we're talking about the prayer flags, they're all beaded, you know, with sequins and beads. And a lot of the ladies who started doing those flags all worked at a wedding dress factory, you know, that was very popular and very busy. And then Haiti's relations with other countries kind of flattened. And when that happened, creative people always have to go to the next step. What do I do with what I know? And I think they went into making prayer flags. And a lot of the culture down there, a lot of the paintings were done for the voodoo temples. A lot of the ironwork is expressing their religious beliefs. And because it's all done by hand and the oil barrels are cheap, it's something that they could afford to do. And then it, I think, passed down through the ages. So the fathers taught the sons and the sons taught their sons. But Haiti is a really wonderful art place, as is Mexico. You know, I like you, I love to travel, and I find artists all over the world who want to share their work. And they're not really doing it for themselves. They're doing it because they have to. And that adds an extra force, I think, to every piece.
Thanks.
That's my guess.
I think there's also a piece that a lot of the artwork is religious. And I think that religions that don't allow figurative objects like Judaism and Islam have much more limited artistic heritage. And, well, that's probably a very controversial thing to say, but you know,
well,
I think,
you know, and then a lot of those religions, the art was done in the writing of the scripture. You know, that was the artist who had the ability to make the letters or the illuminations that went with the books.
Yeah.
There's artists everywhere. Bill and I just went to Mexico. I don't know if you can see back in this room. Paintings up on the wall. Again, an artist we just met in our travels in Mexico. And when I saw them, I just fell in love with them, and here they are.
Wow. Wow.
And I think, as we had said before, it's a wonderful, SIDESHOW's a wonderful place to come, because not only do we have fun stuff and books and postcards, but we do have original art that is affordable.
Yes.
You know, and thanks to the artists who let me buy their work at a reasonable price, I can pass it along at a reasonable price.
Right.
You can also see on the top over here, there's a bunch of Mary Proctor. And she is in the permanent collection across the hallway and up in the show that we have up at the moment. And they call her missionary Mary Proctor because she teaches through her artwork. And her story was that when she was young, she lived with her aunt and her grandmother in a house that burned down, and she lived. And forever, she was holding on to that guilt and sadness. And she believes that, like a lot of visionary artists, they believe that God came to them and said, don't worry. She said, don't worry, Mary, you'll be okay. Go back to the house and do something with it. And she went back and took the doors off the house, and she started doing mosaics on the door, teaching what her grandmother had taught her. And a real famous one across the hallway is, it's called, I think, Broken Dishes. And she did this collage on the door and taught what her grandmother taught her, that when she was young, she broke a dish in the kitchen, and she thought her grandmother was going to beat her, but she didn't. And her grandmother said, let's make something with it. And she started making the collages with the broken dishes. And now they do call her missionary Mary Proctor, and on the back of each one is sort of a little prayer.
Wow.
And she still lives in Tallahassee, Florida.
Linda, did you have a
Here's
question?
something. Sure.
Oh,
Go
I
ahead,
have a,
Linda.
can I speak?
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, hi. Hi, Ted. It's Linda.
Hello.
And hi, I couldn't miss your talk, and it's so nice listening to you because I love everything you carry, but I didn't know your backstory. And I just want to say that I came to Ted's shop and I bought, well, those little drawer things that you have, all those whimsical little fun things. And a friend of mine across the street started giving me his sardine cans. And so I made these dioramas, and then Ted loved them, and he carries them. Circle to listen to Ted, and it's just a magical place. And everybody has to go to the American Visionary Art Museum.
Oh, wow.
It was wonderful. It's beyond.
Yes, yes.
And that, I think, is another really wonderful benefit of having a store, because I get to meet so many really interesting people. And oftentimes, you know, I'll get some artists coming in the store, and I know, because of having to sell myself as a graphic designer, it's really hard to walk in someplace with your work and say, this is what I do, are you interested? So no matter what, I try to sort of through our conversation, many times eventually I buy a bunch of stuff, and the people leave with a smile on their face because someone has taken the time to listen to what they have to say and hopefully appreciate what they're doing. So it's a huge benefit for me to be able to do that service and learn for myself too. It makes me happy.
Ted, were you, before the shops, before all that, what brought you to art? I mean, as a young boy, were you thinking about art? Were you creative in that way? Or, you know, it's sort of I'm always wondering, like, did you find art, or did art find you somehow?
I believe that I chose my life. And I think I chose my life to be an artist and to be able to help people through my creativity. And as long as ago as I can remember, I always remember making things, you know, and enjoying it. I'm not really book smart, but I'm very common sense smart, and I have a good heart, which I think has gotten me through. But I think at the age of 14, all through high school, I was a glass engraver.
Huh.
I had a teacher who had a glass studio, and I learned how to carve and sandblast glass, which started me on my road, I think. And I think that was a big part of being able to apply and get into art school.
Yeah.
So I think it's always been there. And I think being creative got me out of a lot of situations that might have been hard to get out of for a normal person. So I always had that weird artistic, and I love to collect junk. And that's why I think if you wait long enough and you do the things you love, they start weaving together and allow you to enjoy your life the way you were supposed to lead it, instead of the way other people wanted you to lead it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's always been there.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Ted, would you mind talking a little bit about, I guess, your thoughts or relationship towards art school? From my own experience, I had probably way too much art school, and I'm now teaching art. So I have kind of that inner battle as an artist and teacher about what's important to tell students or teach students. Do you have any thoughts on just, you know, the job as a teacher of art?
Well, I did, you know, because I was shy, tried things to open myself up. And I did teach at Columbia College in Chicago for 1 semester. I thought if I'm teaching, I can help open myself up and impart some of the knowledge I know to students. And it was really a learning experience, because back in that day, Columbia College was pass or fail. And I was teaching at night school. So I thought everybody who was in art school wanted to be there. And I learned different. So the first 2 classes, when you're starting out and teaching, I was teaching design, there were students that were just fooling around. And I realized they didn't really want to be there. They just needed the course to move on. So the college probably didn't like it, but I said, look, you guys, I'll give you a passing grade, just don't come back. And I was left with a core of students that really wanted to be there. I think art school is a really wonderful place to learn how to get along with people. And for my schooling, it was like a puzzle, because a graphic designer, a graphic communicator is a person that has to be able to listen, put the pieces together, and come up with a finished piece of work that solves the problem. And if you don't have the skill to listen, it doesn't work. I think painters, it's different. They need to learn how to listen to their gut and learn techniques either from the teacher or by themselves with the guidance of the teacher. Teaching art is a really tough thing. I think it's worthwhile for a lot of people, but being in this museum, we have a book that is called Unlearning How to Draw. So, I learned how to draw the old-fashioned way, and I wasn't really good at it, and I didn't really get good grades, but I liked the way I drew. But I was poo-pooed because of the way I was drawing. And, there's a really, I'm trying to remember the name of the book, but there's a book, The Innocent Eye, I think it's called. And it's a book that goes through a lot of famous artists who collected children's work. And they actually copied the children's work and became famous for their paintings, like Merrill and Dubuffet. So you never know where the ideas are going to come from, but hopefully teachers in art school can learn that mindset where they push or help art students along without putting the kibosh on what they're doing. It takes a nice blend of the two, and hopefully you're that kind of teacher. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one of the things at the American Visionary Art Museum that I think I know I say, and I know my fellow docents say to groups that come visit, you're going to see some things that might be disturbing. You're going to see some things that might be beautiful, and you're going to see some things that are absolutely not, that will challenge you. And it's not about the beauty. It's not about perfection. It's about the beauty within, and it's about fun. And that's not a concept that a lot of people enter art museums with. So it's one that I know Ted works through all the things that he's doing in the shop that make it so amazing to people, but it's also something about us when we visit. We need to let go of these concepts that we're holding about what art is.
Can I tell a story about Ted?
Sure.
I'm a docent at the museum, and I've been there about 15 years. And I think it was my 3rd tour, and I just arrived, and I really did not know who Ted was. And I had a group of women come, and they said, one woman said, I have to meet the man who runs the store. He changed my granddaughter's life. And so she told me the story. She brought her granddaughter, and Ted was selling an easel in the store, and he asked kids who came in to paint. And so the little girl painted a painting, and she went to walk, and Ted said, "Can I have it?" And the girl said, "Absolutely." And Ted said, "I can't take it without your signature because you're an artist. Every artist signs their work." And so she wanted, because the girl after that meeting went on to go to art school and is now a painter. And it was all because of her interaction with Ted at ADEM. Well, I hadn't met him, so then he was out on one of his world trips. So then I came back and met him and found out it was really true. So I think when he said it's a safe place, it is a safe place. And for the art instructor, I want to say one of our artists said they're really glad they didn't go to art school because they didn't learn what they shouldn't do. So, but just remember, it's a safe place to go for everybody.
Thank you, Margie.
You're welcome. It's one of my favorite stories. Bye-bye.
Great story.
To go along with that one, you never know who you're touching. And when people come in and say things like that, it makes me feel blessed. And just the other day, an elderly woman came in and she said, I'm sure you don't remember me. And I go, no. And she goes, I came in your store 10 years ago with some of my doodles, and you looked at all of them and you said, these are amazing. And I bought some. And she said that day changed her life too. You never know.
Right.
You just be open, live with an open heart and open mind, and things happen. You know, you're on a path and you don't know where you're going, but hopefully it's the right way.
Right. Wow.
I have a question too, if I may. A lot of people in the chat, by the way, are saying field trip, admiring everything. What would you say to people who like to collect things, but they don't quite know what to do with them in their life? Sometimes people hoard some things and they don't know. They think some of them might be beautiful or worthy. I don't mean money-wise. What do you have some advice for those, the hoarders in us?
Well, I think there's that thin line, but I'm a firm believer. If you see something that you like, you can afford it, and it's not going to hurt you or someone else, I would say buy it. I'm surrounded by a lot of things and beauty, and you never know when the right time is going to come up. And this has happened more than a lot. Not too long ago, this young lady came in, and, you know, with her pink hair and her wild clothes and piercings and stuff. And she's looking around and she said, "You collect teeth?" And I go, "Well, sure, I love collecting teeth." And she saw some choppers from a dentist on the shelf. And she goes, "Oh, those are incredible." And I said, "Oh, do you collect teeth too?" And she said, "Yes." I go, "Here, this is a present." That changed her life. I can find more teeth. They're not too popular to collect, but you know, you never know. And I think collecting is a wonderful thing, but also letting go is a wonderful thing. So I've had people come to my house. Well, here's an example. I sold my house and moved into another house, and like was said before, it was floor to ceiling art. And I had a party right at Christmas time for about 30 people. And at the end of the meal, I go, I don't really have presents for everybody, but here's what I'm going to do. Because I'm moving, everybody can pick anything they want from my house and take it home with them. So it did two things. It allowed people to look through my artwork and look through the things in the house. It allowed them to take something home, and it allowed me to know that what went with them was a part of me and they would love it. And I love that day. And everything like that changes your life when you can pass something on. So I think collecting is kind of a good thing because it also allows you to give.
Yeah.
I don't know how much time we have left, but let's run across the hall. Let me show you one artist that.
Good.
Hello, everybody. Oh, it looks like it's a little busy in there, but let's go in. This is a little bit of the permanent collection.
Tons and tons of that day.
And I'm sure the docents on the call could explain way better than I can, but here's something that I want to show you. This artist, Ray Matterson, can you see real closely? He was arrested for a drug charge when he was much younger. And while he was in prison, he bribed the judges to give him a needle, which you really shouldn't have. And what he did is he took apart his socks and started doing little stitcheries while he was in prison. And I don't know if you can see, but there's millions of little stitches. He's not in jail anymore, of course. And now his stitcheries go for $30,000.
Yeah.
You know, but way back then, he just wanted to sell them to get money to live. And then, like a lot of outsider artists, they're sort of discovered by a gallery, and that allows the gallery to put them in and make a lot of money. And I don't know if any of you are in New York, but coming up in a week and a half is the Outsider Fair in New York, which is a really good show to visit if you have the time. And it's a lot of the visionary and outsider artists show their work through their galleries.
Great.
I don't know, a lot of you said you haven't been here, so the boat in the middle is made out of, Joseph, can you help me? How many toothpicks?
197,000.
And an awful lot of
5 gallons of glue.
Yeah.
And when it came to the museum, they decided to leave it in 2 pieces so you could see how it was made. It was made by an artist who lives in a studio apartment in Chicago.
He builds it from the inside out.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then here's another piece that I own over here. This is a piece by JJ, it's part of my collection. And we were talking before, buy what you like and what makes you happy. Well, this I bought because it makes me really sad, because I hate the dentist, but I thought it was really funny how teeth are all over the place.
Alexandra, did you have a question?
Pardon me?
Hi. Can you
Did I
guys
hear
hear me?
a question? Okay.
Yes. Hi. So I'm Alexandra. I also make weird artwork, and I love the American Visionary Arts Museum. It's like my favorite museum. Your art shop is, I mean, your gift shop is awesome. I've been there at least 100 times. So I'm curious if you might be interested in buying some of my work. When can I catch you in the shop?
Sure. Well, the museum's closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. I'm always in the shop unless I'm traveling. You can always go to our website, sideshowbaltimore.com, and send us images, or give us a call at the store. The number is 443-872-4926, but you can also find it on our website.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to leave this because there's a lot of people here. Well,
Well, that's great that it's busy today. Yeah, we have just a few more minutes if anyone else has a question for Ted.
Just a comment that someone said Ted is an angel, and I believe it.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you guys want to learn more about me, there's a filmmaker from Chicago, Laura Scruggs, who did a documentary on me. So if you go to our website, sideshowbaltimore.com, there's a link, and it's an hour documentary. It sort of chronicles my life, the good parts and the bad parts. And you might find that interesting. It's called Uncle Fun, You're the One, because of Rebecca saying, when I came to the museum, you're the one. So check that out too.
We will. Ted, thank you. Thank you so much this morning. I know it's not easy walking around the museum like that in the shop while people are there, but it was a great opportunity for those of us who haven't been there. And I invite everyone to come to the American Visionary Art Museum and to SIDESHOW. And
please do.
Yeah.
It's been my pleasure.
Wonderful.
Thanks to my camera woman.
Yes, thank you, Ashley.
Yay.
Harley taking care of the customer.
It was seamless. Yeah.
Thank you so much. People are saying thank you on that.
And don't remember, please remember, come shopping and leave smiling.
Yes. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
All
right.
Thank you so much.
Everyone, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.